Hi, this is Koel Puri Rinchet, and you're watching me on Cineblues.
Hi, this is Ahwan, and today you are watching me on Cineblues. We have one of the most eminent personalities of cinema, but she is not only an actor, she's also a TV host, a producer, and now she has turned a novelist with her debut book, which is clearly invisible in Paris. Welcome, Koel, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Our pleasure. So, Koel, as when I was thinking about Koel Puri, I just got reminded about uh, your first performance back in 2001. Everybody says I'm fine, and the road to Ladakh, and all those films that I have watched. And now that you have done a novelist, so tell me, Koel, first of all, what made you write? See, you come from a very eminent background, right? Your father was the editor-in-chief for India Today. Yeah. So does writing naturally come to you, or how did it happen?
I don't know if writing is genetic or whether it's something that the environment gives you. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
But from as far back as I can remember, I've been a storyteller,
Okay.
because I'm a middle child. So I always was attention seeking, ki main bhi hoon, please
Achha.
don't ignore me. So all the time I was weaving stories. And in fact, my grandmother used to call me Gaposti because I was doing all the time gup, like just
Achha.
making up all kinds of. Gaposti is a very Punjabi
Okay.
word,
Hmm.
of someone who's constantly doing gup chup and making up
Right. Right.
stories.
Got it
So
now.
I remember that I was called Gaposti. Are ek Gaposti aa gaya, acha chalo batao. What are you going to tell us? Something about your
Yeah.
some stories. I was permanently whatever I was seeing from whatever was happening around me. I was able to make it 10 times more embellished and just weave an interesting story so that
Hmm.
I would have an audience, because that's all I wanted. I just
Right.
wanted attention,
Right.
So I was constantly telling stories.
Hmm.
Then, as time went on, I never wrote a diary or anything, but I constantly wrote. So a lot of the times I was writing nonfiction, like travel logs for newspapers, for journals,
Hmm.
then sometimes commentaries, columns. And then very early after I graduated, I started writing for a TV show that I was producing called Aaj Ki Nari, which was a women's TV show for
Right.
Doordarshan.
Ah.
And so that was my first, I think, fiction for TV. But this is my first book, and I think
Yeah.
I'm a writer naturally. But this book kind of just it came to me, and I had to write it, and literally it felt like I hope this always happens. I'm not sure it will, but I got lucky enough to be just a medium for telling the story. It
Yeah.
literally poured out of me. It
Hmm.
wasn't something that I had to go, now what happens next and how do I weave this character into that character. It just went blah, 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 and I was like,
Hmm. Hmm.
writing, typing away.
Yeah. So Koel, when I started reading your book, right, clearly Invisible in Paris. So it was like I was bombarded with two thoughts primarily. So the first one, which I would like to ask you, is like clearly invisible, right? It's kind of true lies, those two words, oxymoron kind of thing. What was the thought behind that? And secondly, the four characters are so diverse in nature, right? The four ladies who come from different backgrounds, different geography, different nations altogether. So, how did you think about these characters as your protagonists? These are the two questions
So,
which I
yeah.
was
So I think
pondering.
the answer to both the questions go hand in hand.
Hmm.
Firstly, clearly invisible, you will find continuously in my book that I'm a big fan of contradictions. I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of things, because I genuinely believe this idea, not just of yin and yang, but that you
Hmm.
cannot appreciate light without having tasted darkness. You
Hmm.
cannot. It's just a what do you know of light if you don't know
No, no
darkness,
darkness.
right?
Right, right.
So it's the same thing. What do you know about being invisible unless you are visible, unless you're
Huh.
clear?
Yeah.
And this was the starting point of, like I said, I'm an attention seeker. I got all the attention in India. I found my own little niche, nothing to
Huh.
do with my family, my own little space in alternative films with my show, etc. But then when I moved out of India, I was suddenly invisible all over again, like completely invisible. And I was like,
In terms of
okay, this
identity,
is not
yeah.
working for me, right?
Right,
This
right.
is a whole new ecosystem. It's a whole new starting from scratch at a much older age, all these kind of things without any friends, without any backup, all this kind. So clearly invisible firstly comes from the fact of I like polarity. I like contradiction. I think
Hmm.
nothing exists without the opposite existing.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't even know what it means, right?
Absolutely.
So that answers the first question. Coming to the second part, because I was so, or I am, clearly invisible in
Hmm.
places like Paris and places
Hmm.
like Tokyo, you naturally gravitate towards people who are feeling similarly. So
Yeah.
who come from various parts of the world, who are not natural insiders, who
Right.
are people who are outsiders, like you say, geographically from different parts of the world, ethnically different parts
Huh.
of the world, financially, socially. These are people that you would not normally meet if you were just in living in the place that you were born in and brought up in, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
you would stick to your own kind, let's put it that way. But
Right.
when you're an outsider in a foreign city, then just the fact that you're an outsider makes you all common, makes
Hmm.
you all one. And some
Hmm.
of my closest friendships have come from the most unlikely people. So it's a kind of, although my book is entirely fiction, but the inspiration has definitely come from real life experiences.
Right. Right. So wonderful. So wonderful. So Koel, like there are four characters in your book, right? Neera, Rosel, Violet, and of course Dasha. So
Hmm.
who is your favorite, Koel? As in who and whom did you identify with the most? See, because Rosel is a Filipino and Dasha, 17-year-old teenager model. Uh, Violet is totally different, trans woman. And like, sorry, I'm revealing these things, but I would
Oh, it's okay.
definitely encourage our readers to.
Don't tell me more. But I'm
I'm
very
not telling
glad you
you
read
more.
the book.
So, personally, at a personal space, whom did you enjoy writing? Which character did you enjoy writing more? And whom did you identify more among these four?
I don't know how other fiction writers write, but
Mm-hmm.
for me, I write. My literary agent in London said, Koel, you are absolutely method writing. And I was like, what is method writing? And he goes,
Mm-hmm.
like method acting, because he said, this character perhaps needs some of this. And I was like, I don't know this. I better go and do this to understand what this feels
Mm.
like. He goes, oh, that is totally method writing. So for me, because my first training ground has been acting. I'm a
Right.
RADA trained actor. I understand how to develop characters, how to form certain trajectories and graphs
Right.
through my acting. So I realized
Oh.
without consciously doing it that I
Mm.
was writing as by living these characters, not every experience, but just,
Yeah.
like you would do for an actor.
Mm.
Obviously, if a character is committing suicide, you're not committing suicide, but you're understanding what it takes for a person to get there, right? As an actor, you would do the work. And I realized that my writing was similar.
Okay.
So, having said that, almost every single character, even the smaller protagonists who kind of come just for a couple of scenes or chapters, etc.,
Mm. Mm.
have parts of me in them and
Oh.
have
Right.
parts of people that I have found interesting or moments that I have experienced. Like, let's say after this chat, if I'm writing something else, be sure that there might be something of you in the next character that I'm imagining, consciously or subconsciously, because something you say, the way that you smile,
Yeah.
now I'm looking at you, the way your eyebrows go up, the gap in your teeth, these are all things that would go in my mind and make me form another character just slightly. So which character do I identify most with? It's hard to say, because all
Right.
of them have been fleshed out through really living them and through
Right.
experiencing them. And secondly, which character did I enjoy most? Because Dasha and
Mm.
Rosel were the furthest away from me as
Mm.
Koel.
Mm.
I really enjoyed creating them, because you ask any creative person, it's always more exciting to go far away from what you know than
Right.
what than what two characters I had the most fun with. But
Yeah.
almost each one of them have little traits of people I know, of
Okay.
things I know, of the world
Mm.
that I see, the conversations I've had.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Just a second. So, Koel, while reading the book, I felt that grief is an undercurrent in your book, right? So, as a writer, as a novelist, so what was the larger thought, or what was the kind of messaging that you want to give it to your audience?
Avan, you're absolutely right. For me, grief, just as an emotion, is a very strong. People can form bonds much stronger with grief than with other people's happiness.
Right.
I don't know what it's. Maybe it's human nature. Maybe it's a stronger emotion. Maybe it's a simpler emotion. Because when someone is grieving, there's not other layers of complex. It's just grief. It's sadness, it's loss, it's all that. So, as an emotion, I've always found that I have connected more with people through grief and sadness than
Yeah.
even through joy, even though I'm a joyous person.
Yeah.
It's an easier connect. So you're absolutely right. Grief is a really important thread through my novel. Now, as far as what do I want the reader to feel, I'll tell you something that I've discovered while the book is now finally out.
Yeah.
I really write for myself. I am not
Mhm.
writing with a single reader in mind. I love my own writing. I go
Mm.
back to old articles I've written or old things I've written and enjoy them so much. I'm
Oh,
so appreciative and grateful for if anyone reads my articles and they connect with it, or my book and they connect with it, and they are talking about it. But really, in the end, who is my reader? It's me. So I don't know what someone will get from it. And a
mm.
second point of that, which is only happening as the book is being read, and as I did a play earlier this year, so as it was being watched, in any art form, you can only you finish as a creator, you finish whatever it is that you're going to do, but
Right.
till it is viewed or taken in by the audience, it's not a complete work. And the
Right.
interpretation of the reader, the viewer, the audience, whether it's a painting, whether it's a book, whether it's a film, is what completes it. And that interpretation is very, very subjective.
Right.
No two readers will get the same thing from the same book, no matter how similar they are, because it
Right.
would depend on the way they read it, in the mood they were, they read it on a beach on a holiday, or they read it because they had to do an interview with Koel,
Right.
so depends on who read it at what time. So I don't claim to be so presumptuous as to imagine what a reader is getting from it. uh, this completes my book. It completes an art form just by the reader's interpretation. And
Yeah.
I'm very happy to have various points of view saying,
Yeah.
grief is something that connected with me. Friendship is something that connected with me. Feeling
Right.
outside, like an outsider. I'm very happy to hear all these things.
Right. Yeah, that's the most honest answer that I have ever got. And if I can say, it's the couch with Koel thing that you used to host. So, yeah. So, that's absolutely fantastic. Tell me one thing, Koel. That's a funny one, maybe a funny one. But what is you in the beginning of the book? You have written to my Chupsi. What is that? Am I spelling? I'm pronouncing it correct? Chupsi.
You're pronouncing it absolutely correct. My
Okay.
little Choopsie. My Choopsie is my Choopsie, and I'm not revealing anymore till she wants to reveal it.
Okay. So it's a she. Okay.
It's a she. It's a she. My Choopsie is a she.
So what next, Koel? Like, would you see being a TV host, being an actor by yourself, and also a producer? Do you aspire to turn it into a show, maybe a web series or something like that? Or it's
Perhaps,
too early?
but for the moment, it's a book. I
Hmm.
want book to be read in its book form, because seriously, when I started writing this story, the medium was not clear for me. That what am I writing for? Am I
Okay.
writing it as a piece of nonfiction? Am I writing it as fiction? Am I writing it for the screen? Am I writing
Hmm.
it for a play? What am I doing?
Yeah.
But once I started putting pen to paper, I
Hmm.
realized I wanted to be in the thoughts and in the
Hmm.
head of these characters. I
Hmm. Hmm.
wanted to be in the subconscious. And the only form to do that where you're entirely in control
Hmm.
is a novel.
Hmm.
So yes, the screen, you depend highly on the acting prowess of whoever is playing those characters to bring in the subtext.
Right.
But when you write a novel, you're completely in control of everyone's stream of consciousness. And I need it to be, like, you've read the book, you understand that all these characters have so many inner voices and thoughts and struggles and contradictions inside them, that I, as a creator, wanted to be inside their head. So for me, it was the only choice was to write a novel, and right now it is in its novel form. But as you rightly said, I am from the world of screen, from TV to films, etc. I would, that is, of course, something that is not, ruled out at all. But at this point, let it just be a book and let it be enjoyed as a book.
Well, thank you. Well, that was Koel Puri for you. It was such a lovely conversation having you on this podium, Koel. Thanks a lot for your time, and we wish that your book becomes a huge hit. And of course, personally, I would wish that this comes to the show in the form of a TV show or film or whatever it is. So clearly, Invisible in Paris is also available on Amazon. And please, I would request my audience to grab a copy of it. Wonderfully, most vividly and vibrantly written by Koel Puri. And yes, don't miss that Koel Puri will be soon seen in Zoya Akhtar's Archies, right, on Netflix. And we'll be waiting to see her on the screen. Well, that was lovely talking to you, Koel. Have a great day.
And you thank you for reading my book. Thank you for liking my book. Thank you for this conversation. Real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.